Shh. Stay quiet. Don't make a sound. If you move right now, it will see you. And once it sees you, it's game over. Hide and seek. One of our favorite childhood games. Right. 1, 2, 3. The sound of counting. And that rush of excitement as you run to find the perfect hiding spot. But imagine this. You're hiding, waiting for your friend to find you. You can hear footsteps, slowly getting closer and closer. They're coming straight toward you. But then, you realize something. Those footsteps, they don't belong to any of your friends. They belong to someone who was never invited to play. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 true stories from across the United States, where a simple game of hide and seek turned into a terrifying nightmare. And you're listening to 3 scary hide and seek horror stories. This incident happened when I was only 12 years old. It was bitterly cold in Ohio, with frost thick on the windows. My parents had gone out of town for the night, leaving me at my cousin David's house. It was about 9:30 at night. A snowstorm had started howling outside, and the old house creaked in the wind. We were playing hide and seek. It was David's turn to count. He closed his eyes in the drawing room and began. 1, 2, 3. I shuffled across the kitchen to the basement door. Basements in older Ohio homes are usually very cold, damp, and terrifying. I knew David was afraid to come down here, so it was the perfect place to hide. I silently crept down the stairs. It was pitch dark. Only the faint orange light from the street lamppost filtered in through the small ventilator, casting a ghostly shadow on the floor. I squeezed into the crack between an old bookcase and the washing machine and curled up. I held my breath. 5 minutes passed. Pinpoint. Silence. Only the furnace made an occasional clanging noise. Suddenly, I heard it. The wooden steps on the stairs creaked. Someone was coming down. 1 step, 2 steps. I smiled to myself. David was actually daring to come down, but the next moment, my smile froze. The sound was strange. David is a small, thin boy. When he walks, the sound is quick and light, but this sound was heavy. The stairs groaned with each step. It felt like someone was walking down them very slowly, carefully, wearing heavy boots. My chest tightened. Is David wearing his father's boots to scare me? The footsteps finished the stairs and hit the concrete floor. Sound moved toward where I was hiding. I buried my face between my knees, right in front of me, on the other side of the washing machine. The shadow stopped. I could clearly hear a heavy, hoarse breath. It was not the breathing of a 10-year-old child. It was an adult, whose lungs sounded filled with phlegm. My body froze. I realized there is a third person in this house. Just then, David's scream rang out from upstairs. "Brother, where are you? I give up. Come out. I'm in the kitchen." My blood ran cold. If David was in the kitchen, then who was standing in the darkness, just 2 feet away from me? The man didn't move. He just stood there. I knew that he knew I was here. In the darkness, I felt someone very slowly leaning down, trying to look at me. Tears streamed down my face, but I didn't make a sound. Suddenly, David's voice called out again. "Brother?" The man stood up straight. Then, very slowly, without making a sound, he turned and left through the back door, the door that was supposed to be locked. When the police arrived, they found a mattress and food packets in the corner of the basement. They told us the man had probably been hiding there for 3 days. But Do you know what the scariest thing was? As the police were leaving, the officer showed me something on the wall, right opposite where I was hiding. There was writing, traced with a finger in the dust. It read, "I found you, but I didn't want to ruin the game." In the American Midwest, especially in Nebraska, there are miles and miles of cornfields. Even during the day, it's normal to get lost in these fields. But at night, it's like hell. I was 17, the week before Halloween. 5 of us friends, me, Sarah, Mike, Jason, and Emily, decided to play manhunt in the huge cornfield behind Jason's farmhouse. The rules were simple. One would be the seeker. The rest would hide. All we had was a flashlight. Jason was the seeker. As soon as he started counting, we ran deep into the cornfield. The rustling of dry corn leaves was all around. The wind was blowing so hard that it was impossible to hear anyone's footsteps. After about 10 minutes of running, I stopped. 6-foot-tall corn plants were surrounding me, and the sky was barely visible. I turned off my flashlight and sat down on the cold ground. About 15 minutes passed. In the distance, I could occasionally see the beam of Mike or Sarah's flashlight tearing through the dark sky. But the strange thing was, Jason didn't respond. He usually screams, trying to scare us. But tonight, everything was dead quiet. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. A message in the group chat. Emily wrote, "Jason, what are you doing? It's been 15 minutes and you still haven't caught anyone." Jason didn't reply. I thought maybe he was playing seriously. I stood up to change places. That's when I saw it, about 20 feet away from me, between the 2 rows. Someone was standing. The figure was unclear in the darkness, but judging by the height, it seemed to be Jason. He was standing with his back to me, completely still, as if he was waiting for someone. I whispered, "Jason? Dude, I'm here. Did you see me?" The statue didn't move. There was no answer. I moved a little closer. "Jason, why aren't you talking?" At that moment, my phone vibrated again. I took it out of my pocket. Jason had sent me a message. The phone almost fell out of my hand after reading it. Jason wrote, "Guys, where are you? I haven't left the house yet. I got stuck in the bathroom. I'm coming now." My throat went dry. If Jason is home, then who is standing in front of me? I carefully raised my flashlight and shone it directly on the statue. As soon as the light fell, I saw that it was not a person. It was a scarecrow, but not an ordinary scarecrow. It had something wrapped around it that looked like human skin, and it was wearing Mike's jacket. Mike, who had come to play with us. The scariest thing was the face. It wasn't plastic or cloth. It was very realistic, like a human face that had been sewn together very poorly. And it was smiling. The wind began to blow harder. Over the rustling of the dry leaves, I heard someone whisper, right next to my ear, "I can see you." I didn't wait. I started running. The sharp corn stalks were cutting my hands and face, but I didn't stop. When I finally got to the farmhouse, I saw Sarah and Emily standing on the porch, crying. Jason was already calling the police. We didn't find Mike that night. 3 days later, the police found him in the middle of that cornfield. He was in shock, unable to speak. He didn't have his jacket on. All he kept saying over and over again was, "He didn't look like Jason. He didn't look like Jason." To this day, when I pass a cornfield, I roll up my car window because I know that something is still lurking in that field, waiting for a new game. This story isn't mine. It happened to my older brother, Ryan, but ever since he told me about it, I haven't been able to stay alone in a closed room, not even for a second. The incident took place in a secluded mountain cabin in Colorado. Ryan and his 3 friends, Mark, Chris, and Sam, had gone up to the mountains for the weekend. It was snowing heavily outside, temperatures well below freezing. The cabin was massive, built of old timber and surrounded by a dense, suffocating pine forest. There wasn't another soul for miles. On the second night, after a few drinks, they decided to play hide and seek, just like when they were kids. But there was a twist. Every single light in the house would be turned off. Only the seeker would carry a candle. Sam was chosen as the seeker. Mark, Chris, and my brother ran to hide. Ryan scrambled up to the 3rd floor. There was a small, cramped attic at the top. He squeezed inside, hiding behind an old, dusty trunk. The air smelled of rot and cobwebs. Through a crack under the door, he could see the dark corridor outside. From the darkness below, Sam's voice echoed up. "Ready or not, here I come." The game began. Ryan could hear footsteps creaking on the wooden floorboards below. A shout rang out, probably Chris getting caught. Ryan smiled to himself. He knew Sam would never think to check this attic. About 20 minutes passed. The house became strangely quiet. Dead silent. No laughter from Chris or Mark. No taunts from Sam. Ryan thought the game was over, that they were trying to trick him into coming out. He prepared to leave. But then, he heard it. A sound on the stairs. Very slow. Very deliberate. Someone was climbing to the 3rd floor. Ryan ducked back behind the trunk. He peered through the gap under the door. He saw the dim, flickering light of a candle. Shadows danced wildly on the walls. The door creaked open. But the person who walked in was not Sam. It had Sam's height. It wore Sam's clothes, but the way it moved was wrong. Sam walked straight. This thing, this shadow, walked hunched over, stooping low. And the scariest part? It was counting, but not 1, 2, 3. It whispered in a glitchy, distorted voice. 7, 80, 77. The numbers were jumbled. The voice sounded like a tape stuck in a cassette player. Mechanical. Broken. Ryan covered his mouth, his heart hammering against his ribs. The thing stood in the middle of the room, the candle flame trembling in its hand. Slowly, painfully slowly, it turned its head toward the trunk. Even in the dark, Ryan felt its eyes, dead eyes, fixed right on him. The thing laughed, a low, guttural sound. It spoke in Sam's voice. "I got you, Ryan," Ryan screamed. He jumped out, clicking on his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. The room was empty. No one was at the door. The candle was lying on the floor, extinguished, but a thin trail of smoke was still rising from the wick. It had been burning just seconds ago. Ryan ran. He sprinted down the stairs, terrified, bursting into the living room. He found Chris and Mark fast asleep on the couch. "Sam! Sam!" Ryan screamed, shaking Chris awake. Chris blinked, confused. "What? What happened?" "Where is Sam? He was just in the attic." Ryan was panting, his face pale. Chris looked at him like he was crazy. "What are you talking about?" Sam slipped on the stairs 5 minutes into the game. He sprained his ankle bad. He's been sitting in the car ever since. We were waiting for you to come down so we could go to the hospital. Ryan froze. His blood ran cold. So, who was upstairs with the candle? They ran to the car. Sam was there, in the back seat, writhing in pain. He hadn't moved an inch, but the real horror was waiting for them back inside the cabin. Before leaving, they did a final sweep to check the lights. They went up to the attic. Directly opposite where Ryan had been hiding, in the thick layer of dust on the floor, were footprints. But they weren't made by shoes. They were bare feet. And they were wrong. The soles were inverted. The toes faced backward, toward the wall, but the heels faced forward, toward Ryan. And next to those twisted prints, carved deep into the wooden floor with a fingernail, was a message. Now, it's my turn to hide. Hide and seek is a simple game. You find the people hiding. The problem is when you don't realize that someone else is playing with you. So, the next time you hide in a dark room, or close your eyes to count to 10, be careful, because when you open your eyes, there might be someone standing right in front of you, smiling. Good night, if you can sleep.